The Allen Line Company appreciates all of the dedicated carriers it takes to move loads across the U.S. Stay safe.
OOIDA, representing America's truckers since 1973, presents Landline Now with your host, Mark Redding.
There's a new leader at FMCSA. I'll discuss who that is and what we know about them, as well as NHTSA denying a request to change the rules regarding ICC bumpers with OOIDA's Jay Grimes. A woman in Minnesota has started writing children's books about trucking. We speak with her about the process and the passion she has for the blue-collar industry. And finally, Marty Ellis is hearing from truckers about a fairly ridiculous situation involving turn signals and some real concerns about load securement. I'll talk with the man who drives the spirit of the American trucker. But first, the news with Scott Thompson.
Thanks, Mark. Our top story today. Returning to an upward trend that began 3.5 years ago, cross-border freight hauled by trucks went up significantly in April. According to the latest numbers from the Bureau of Transportation Statistics, truck freight valued at more than $90.5 billion was hauled across U.S. borders in April. That's an increase of 5% from March and a rise of 11.5% compared to April of 2023. April's year-to-year increase is the largest since January of 2023, when trucking cross-border freight went up by nearly 13%. Cross-border freight hauled by trucks across the U.S. northern border rose by 2.5% in April. At the southern border, the value of freight shot up 19%. If you feel like traffic jams have gotten more and more common in recent years, it's not your imagination. A new report from transportation analytics company INRIX says traffic has gotten worse in many parts of the United States. Some takeaways: the average driver lost 42 hours of their time and $700 of their money due to congestion in 2023. New York City, Chicago, and Los Angeles are 1, 2, and 3 at the top of the most congested cities list. But traffic is up in most places, and there's a new problem that's cropping up as well: a midday rush hour. INRIX says the average hourly traffic at noon jumped 23% last year compared to just 4 years earlier, before the pandemic. Another holiday means another prolonged period of higher traffic volumes. AAA says the upcoming July 4th holiday will be the busiest since it started tracking trends. AAA projects that nearly 71 million travelers will head 50 miles or more from home over the Independence Day holiday travel period, which includes the Saturday before and the Sunday after the holiday. That's up 5% compared to last year. Most of those people will be going wherever they're going by car. AAA projects a record 60.6 million people will travel by vehicle over Independence Day week. That's an additional 2.8 million travelers compared to last year. There are a few reasons for the spike, lower gas prices being the big one. If you're going to be on the road on July 4th, the worst times to do that will be between 2 and 7 p.m. Overall, the worst days for traffic are expected to be July 3rd and Sunday, July 7th. A House subcommittee waved through the 2025 Transportation, Housing, and Urban Development, or THUD, appropriations bill on Thursday morning. We told you yesterday about the bill, which proposes spending limits and restrictions on the Department of Transportation and agencies like the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. Truck parking projects are earmarked for a $200 million investment in the bill. Also included is a prohibition on a speed limiter mandate, a proposal FMCSA has in the works. Other items of note in the 210-page appropriations bill include a prohibition on electronic logging devices in ag operations, a prohibition on driver-facing cameras in the under-21 pilot program, and a prohibition on FMCSA acting to change meal or rest break preemption waivers. The THUD subcommittee approved the bill without any real debate or any amendments. The next step, a full committee markup during the week of July 8th. Yesterday, we also told you about new towing reform measures and fuel tax changes taking effect in several states on July 1st. Today, we'll look at several other changes taking effect with the turn of the calendar. In Connecticut, a new law taking effect gives cities and towns access to devices that monitor vehicle noise levels so they can ticket loud vehicles. Those with a sound exceeding 80 decibels can be ticketed after a warning. In Idaho, a new law taking effect on July 1st permits a commercial vehicle to idle for the purposes of using its heating or air conditioning system when a driver is resting. Over in Indiana, a new law will allow seatbelt usage to be considered in accident lawsuits. That information can then be used when considering damages. Supporters said juries should be able to know whether injuries were worse because an adult did not wear a seatbelt. A new Kentucky law taking effect on July 1st singles out trucks from travel in the far left lane of certain highways. And in Utah, a new law creates a definition for road rage, which can be used in such cases to impose additional penalties. For full details on any of the changes taking effect on Monday, our Keith Goebel has a full rundown on our website, landline.media. The owner of a New York-based trucking company is facing prison time. Anatoly Kirik was convicted by a federal jury for lying to the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration about his company's safety ratings. Kirik submitted false statements while applying for authority to operate as an interstate carrier and during compliance reviews and safety audits. He also created several chameleon carriers using the names of family members. Sentencing is scheduled for October. He faces up to 5 years in prison and a $250,000 fine. The drive through Portland, Oregon is going to be messy this weekend. The Oregon DOT says 4 miles of Interstate 5 in southwest Portland will be closed in all directions from Friday evening to Monday morning. Crews will be out rebuilding an overpass. The I-5 closure comes as the U.S. Olympic track and field trials end on Sunday in Eugene. All drivers in the area are advised to plan for extra travel time or to find alternate routes around the closure. Detours will, of course, be posted, but plan ahead. A portion of Interstate 165 through western Kentucky will be closed for a few days after a semi spilled a load of molten aluminum. This happened Thursday morning in Davies County. Details on the crash are still coming in, but the driver of the truck was taken to the hospital. Over the coming days, crews will be working to clear the containers of aluminum from the highway. After that, they'll need to finish their cleanup efforts before I-165 can be reopened. The truck parking company Outpost has announced 3 new locations across the United States. They're located in Detroit, Memphis, and San Antonio. When all 3 open up, they'll add more than 1,500 spots to those areas, bringing Outpost total nationwide above the 10,000 mark. These are paid truck parking facilities. Of the 3, the one in Memphis is the only one currently open. Located near Interstates 22, 40, 55, 69, and 240, monthly rates are $180 for tractors and $205 for trailers. The truck parking facilities in Detroit and San Antonio will be much larger when they open sometime next year. Earlier this year, Outpost received $12.5 million in Series A funding to expand its network of truck parking facilities. Trent Cameron, the company's CEO and co-founder, told us earlier this year that ultimately they want a presence wherever truck parking is currently lacking.
So we are heavily focused on the largest logistics markets and major metros. However, it's no secret that if you look at any of these studies with the truck parking problem, there really isn't a metro across the U.S. That there isn't a choke point for truck parking. It's an issue everywhere. And so there's nowhere that we don't want to be in order to get where we're going.
For now, Outpost has a heavy presence throughout Texas, along with the Southwest and the Midwest. A renewable natural gas fueling station designed with heavy trucks in mind just opened up in New Jersey. Clean Energy Fuel says a location in Carneys Point will serve commercial vehicles, making the trip on Interstate 295 between Philadelphia and Delaware. Clean Energy says its fueling network now consists of more than 600 RNG stations throughout North America. And finally, Love's has a new location in Northeast Ohio. It's in North Lima off Interstate 76. The new travel stop has 108 truck parking spaces and all the other features you've come to expect from a Love's location. And that's Landline Now News for today. I'm Scott Thompson.
Thanks, Scott. A reminder that the Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance's annual Operation Safe Driver Week takes place soon, running from July 7th through the 13th. You can find more information at cvsa.org. Next, I'll discuss the new leader at FMCSA and a request to change ICC bumper rules with OOIDA Director of Federal Affairs Jay Grimes. Ashley Blackford speaks with children's author Kate Guerrero regarding her books about trucking, and Marty Ellis of the Spirit Truck tells us about a fairly ridiculous situation involving turn signals. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
Every year, 28 million people are trafficked globally. The Your Roads, Their Freedom campaign seeks to raise awareness in the transport industry. Truck and bus drivers, be vigilant on the roads. If you see something suspicious, text 233-733 or be free.
Are you tired of the IRS following you around like a dark cloud? Call 888-557-4020 and get your life back.
Firestone tires are for more of everything, with more durability for more miles and more confidence in your fleet. Firestone's tested tires help fleets save with value where it matters most. Learn more at bridgestonenationalfleet.com/4moremiles.
It's tested and proven. Burn 2.1% less fuel when you balance all wheel ends with Centromatic. Call 800-523-8473 to get the OOIDA discount.
There's a new leader at the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration after action this week by the U.S. Department of Transportation. Welcome back to Landline Now. This is Regulatory Roundup, and I'm Mark Rettig. I'm joined, as always, by OOIDA Director of Federal Affairs, Jay Grimes. Jay, thanks for joining me.
Good to be back.
Good to have you here. Let's start off with a little information about the person in question here. Who is this and what have they been doing up until this point?
Yeah, so Vin White has been named Deputy Administrator at FMCSA as of Tuesday, June 25th. And as part of his duties as Deputy Administrator, he will also be serving as Acting Administrator for an interim period. He has served in a number of roles with the Department of Transportation, most recently as Acting Chief Artificial Intelligence Officer. He's primarily worked in the Biden administration as a senior advisor in the Office of the Secretary, so kind of reporting directly to Secretary Buttigieg. He was appointed in 2021 to the Office of Secretary, in the Office of Secretary of Transportation. Prior to that, under President Obama, he had served as an acting Assistant Secretary of Transportation for Policy and Deputy Assistant Secretary in 2016, where he was the chief architect for U.S. DOT's 30-year transportation plan Beyond Traffic. So I think he's served in a number of capacities within the Department of Transportation, clearly, and we'll certainly have a roadmap on how DOT works. I'm not sure he has a whole lot of trucking-specific background, so that's going to be interesting, and I know he's going to hit the ground running in his new role. But yeah, kind of some big news from FMCSA here this week.
You mentioned, of course, that he's going to be acting administrator for an interim period, as you said. I want to ask a devil's advocate question that I think a lot of people have on their mind. Why are we not seeing an actual administrator confirmed by the Senate as opposed to another acting administrator?
Yeah, a lot of that, has to do with timing in an election year, kind of as we've seen throughout a number of administrators who have been appointed at FMCSA and have gone through that confirmation process through the Senate. It can take, at minimum 6 months, usually a little longer. So kind of given the fact that we're, coming up to a presidential election year, which is going to have a whole lot of ramifications, whoever wins in terms of FMCSA leadership, DOT leadership, it kind of just seems a more practical move to appoint an acting deputy administrator rather than to go through the Senate confirmation process at this time.
How long has it been since we've had an actual administrator confirmed by the Senate?
So Robin Hutchinson was confirmed as administrator and served in that role most recently. However, she departed the agency earlier this year. Since Mr. White was named deputy administrator, Sue Lawless, who has also served in a number of roles with FMCSA, was kind of filling that interim deputy administrator role. Prior to Robin Hutchinson, I believe Mirazoshi was appointed as administrator, and then Ray Martinez under the Trump administration. So it certainly has been a musical chairs atop FMCSA, and I think that makes it a little difficult to kind of have the retention and knowledge of the agency and the industry, especially for folks who kind of come from outside the trucking industry, which has kind of been the case for all those officials that I just named. So it's unfortunate, but in some ways it's kind of the lay of the land when it comes to the federal bureaucracy and these appointments, and a lot of politics are involved. And, unfortunately, in some situations, we don't have a person get appointed who has an intimate knowledge of the trucking industry. They take some time to get educated as best they can. And then by the time that they do, it seems like they're on to other roles. So it's going to be interesting to see what Mr. White prioritizes in his time as acting as deputy administrator and acting administrator, but looking forward to getting to know him more and certainly giving him some perspectives from the small business side of things.
You mentioned what priorities he might pursue, and you also mentioned his rather extensive experience at the U.S. DOT. What do we know from that background that might give us a hint in terms of what policies or positions he might pursue at FMCSA?
Well, certainly he's going to have some experience with transportation-related technologies, and of course, that does perhaps raise some concern for us when you talk about mandating different safety technologies, whether that's speed limiters, automatic emergency braking systems, autonomous vehicles. But I think there are certainly some key differences when you talk about those technologies related to the trucking industry and perhaps some of his prior background. And that's, I think, going to be the main question that he's going to be answering in his new role. So, to be determined on that front. And it's certainly, kind of an interesting time as we kind of gear up towards November here and how active DOT, FMCSA are going to be in the rulemaking process as we kind of wait for the election results later this year.
When does Mr. White officially begin his duties at FMCSA, or has he already?
My understanding is that he is, has assumed that role. FMCSA has updated their leadership page with him at the top as deputy administrator. So, he does not have to go through the Senate confirmation to assume his role as deputy administrator. So I believe he's in place and officially has started his capacity at FMCSA.
Okay. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration has denied a request to change the rules regarding the ICC bumper or underride guard on the back of semi-trailers. And Jay, of course, this is kind of an ongoing issue right now. This comes from a petition for reconsideration of a final rule or rules, I guess, issued by FMCSA. What was that final rule?
Right. So, back in 2021, the major and comprehensive Infrastructure Investment of Jobs Act, contained a number of policy provisions and requirements for the trucking industry. And one of those provisions, tasked NHTSA with updating their standards for rear underride protection. And in July of 2022, NHTSA finalized a rule updating their rear underride protection standards for crashes of passenger vehicles into trailers and semi-trailers by adopting requirements similar to Transport Canada's standard for rear impact guards. And for a number of years, the manufacturing standards were in line with Transport Canada's standards, which have been around since the early 2000s. NHTSA's final rule provided that the upgraded protection for crashes met standards that 50 to 100% of the width of the passenger motor vehicle overlaps the rear of the trailer or semi-trailer. So we formalized those rear underride standards to in line with what a lot of the manufacturing had already put into place on new trailers. In response to the final rule, there was a few petitions filed for reconsideration, wanting NHTSA to go a little bit further in their rear underride protections. NHTSA has now ruled on one of those petitions and denying the petition from a number of safety advocate groups.
Who was it that asked for the reconsideration that NHTSA's addressed here, and what exactly was the change that they wanted?
Yeah, so the petition that was officially denied this week was submitted by the Advocates for Highway Safety, the Truck Safety Coalition, Citizens for Reliable and Safe Highways, and Parents Against Tired Truckers. And their group disagreed with the data and analysis that NHTSA had provided for that final rule and asserted that NHTSA should require reinforced rear guards designed for 30% overlap crash condition. The petition stated that the lesser requirements established by the 2022 final rule were inadequate and dangerous and will increase market demand for weaker rear guards, leading to additional fatalities. They stated that the final rule was not in the public interest and requested a stay of the effective date. In their agency response, NHTSA kind of disagreed with that assessment and really said that the petitioners did not provide sufficient data or research to overturn the final rule. So that's kind of where we stand with the rear underride final rule. I believe the compliance date officially goes into effect next month. However, as I said, much of the industry and the manufacturers have kind of been working under these conditions for a number of years, and the final rule allowed for early compliance, which I think has been done to a great degree.
OOIDA has been very involved in the issue of underride protections, and not just rear underride, but also, of course, side underride, which we'll get to here in a minute. But in terms of this particular petition for reconsideration, what was OOIDA's view of the situation?
Yeah, we have supported NHTSA's actions as far as the final rule. I think, not surprised to see the denial for the petition for reconsideration. I think there's some aspects as far as improving the stringency and the requirements of the rear underride that need to be further reviewed by NHTSA, some additional testing as well. So kind of want to see that process take place before NHTSA perhaps upgrades the rear underride standards. But we've always supported rear underride standards. We've seen the proven safety benefits of the equipment. A different story as far as a potential side underride mandate, and kind of coincidental timing that this decision on the rear underride petition came out as the advisory committee on underride protection has kind of wrapped up their work and is in the process of submitting some final reports to NHTSA, which is going to cover a whole lot of these issues pertaining to underride protection, rear, side, front, data collection. So kind of that's where we looking forward to those reports being submitted to NHTSA, and this is going to be a major issue that NHTSA continues to review over the next few years.
Obviously, they've taken an action here on underride protection on the rear side. Does that tell us anything in terms of where the agency might head once it does formally address the whole underride issue? Do we expect anything?
I think the debate and discussion on rear underride equipment, side and front underride equipment are a little bit different. But we do know that NHTSA last year opened up an advance notice of proposed rulemaking, specifically looking at side underride devices. They have undertaken some more recent research regarding side underrides, but in that advance notice of proposed rulemaking, they continue to emphasize that the costs for side underride equipment continues to far exceed the safety benefits, kind of a conclusion they've always come up with when researching side underride equipment.
Well, thank you, Jay, very much for all the information. We certainly appreciate it.
Thank you.
I've been talking with OOIDA's Director of Federal Affairs, Jay Grimes. And of course, folks, if you want updates on these issues, just go to landline.media. We'll be back in just a moment with more news and information. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Today's rising costs affect everyone. Replace your harmonic damper with a genuine VibraTech TVD viscous damper to prevent costly repairs and downtime. Keep your money in your pocket and your truck on the road with VibraTech TVD. Recommended replacement at 500,000 miles or 15,000 hours.
Ready to make more money? Use a better load board. For a limited time, get 50% off TruckStop Load Board Pro. Just go to truckstop.com/go and enter promo code READY2024 when you purchase Load Board Pro. Attention professional drivers, do you owe money to the IRS? Integrity Tax Relief Group frees drivers from IRS trouble. Call for help now, 855-976-4291. That's 855-976-4291.
Landline Now, welcome back. In an effort to get children excited about the trucking industry, a woman in Minnesota decided to write a few children's books to teach youngsters about trucks, the supply chain, and all the jobs that relate to trucking. Kat Guerrero joins me now. Kat, I want to start by talking about what you do in the trucking industry.
Sure. I work at Ream Kenworth in South St. Paul, Minnesota, and I am corporate procurement manager, so corporate speak for I purchase lots of parts in volume from our dealership group.
Talk to me a little bit about your background in the trucking industry. You've been in the industry for a few years. Is that correct?
A few, yes. Actually, it's like I broke my teeth in the industry. I fell into the refrigerated container industry in California when I was 19. So at 37 years later, here I am. I went from being a secretary when I started to when they actually closed the office down, I was the service manager there. So, and then from there, went to work for, that was a Carrier dealership, and then went to work for a Thermo King dealership, the competitor, and found myself moving to Minnesota, actually in Wisconsin, but I work in Minnesota. And it was from there that I found an opportunity closer to home, being a service advisor here at the Ream Kenworth dealership. And from there took a career promotion to become the procurement manager. So I've been around for about 37 years altogether.
Just a few.
Yes.
Did you have any family? Like, did you grow up with family in the trucking industry? What was it about the industry that kind of pulled you in?
Funny story. I worked at a gas station right out of high school where my dad was a mechanic, the service manager, and I met my future employer pumping his gas and chatting him up in the mornings. He saw that I could be on time and was social, and he was having problems with his secretary at the time, and asked me if I would like to come to work for him. And that's really how I got started in it. But later in life, my dad decided to hang up his hat as a technician and became a truck driver also. So that was kind of exciting. Got to see him grow and be a business owner and have his own truck.
What is it about the industry that you enjoy so much?
It kind of goes, so my children's book series is called Blue Collar Kids, and I've just always been around and grew up around blue collar people, technicians, parts people, and I'm just comfortable there. As a kid, I'm helping my dad and my uncle in the shop, and go step on the brakes and do what I tell you. Bleeding the brake lines and crank the engine until I tell you to stop, and then start the engine. So it's just where I was always comfortable. I was just kind of was drawn to it.
Now, I want you to talk to me about these books. You have 3 of them, is that right?
So far, I have 3 published, yes.
Okay. Can you walk me through each one and tell me what they're about?
I can. The first one, it kind of speaks for itself. It's called Trucks Bring Everything. And I know the world learned a bit about the supply chain. If they weren't aware of it before, they did during COVID. Everyone running out of toilet paper and antibacterial. So it was to introduce at an earlier age that trucks bring absolutely everything that you're purchasing at a store. It's about a girl in a grocery store asking her mom basically where things come from, and develops into everything that you can see and touch around you is brought by a truck. The second one is it's a little bit more about the supply chain, and it starts with a girl in the yard playing with a little red dump truck, and she sees a sticker on it saying it's made in China, and she asks her dad, starts with, where's China? How did it get here from China? And the title's How Did It Get Here? And it briefly explains at a higher level that it comes from a factory in China onto a truck to the port, on a ship to the next port, and onto a truck to a distribution center where it may be on another truck before it gets to the end seller. So it's basically introducing them to the supply chain. And the third is I can't think of the title at the moment. Let me grab it here. Can I Work on Big Trucks Too? So it chronicles a story about a son and his father. His father is a diesel technician, and the son wants to follow in his footsteps and starts asking about how he becomes a truck mechanic also, and evolves into a game of them spotting DOT safety failures on the highway on trucks. So just kind of make it a little fun for kids and say, oh, hey, there's a cracked windshield. Hey, that one's missing mud flaps. So just try to make it fun.
Had you ever written anything before, or was this kind of your first venture in this?
I hadn't. I enjoyed writing in high school, and I did an occasional poem when needed, but I didn't ever think I had what it took to write novels. I didn't have the grand ideas like I'm a big fan of Stephen King and Dean Koontz, those kind of things. But this one, I love kids, had one of my own, and I thought that this was something that I could do, and I have the industry experience where I can kind of bring it to their level and talk to them and maybe make it more interesting. And I think kids love trucks. So I thought that was a plus. And I just figured, well, I'm going to give it a try and see where it goes.
What was the process like from when you got the idea to when you started writing and kind of throughout?
That was harder. I had the idea early on in my journey after reading that book, and I had been thinking on it, what the story would be, what my first approach would be, but didn't know where to start with finding a publisher or getting illustrations. And that was something I had talked to friends about. I have several friends who are teachers, but one in particular, we were on vacation in Costa Rica, and I told her my idea and how I wanted it to be a series, and she told me about Amazon self-publishing. So that kind of was like, oh, here's an opportunity. And I started to research that and find out how I could do that. From there, my struggle was illustrations. I'm no artist by any means, unless you consider stick figures the ultimate art form. So something fell in my lap. I just brought up a browser at work one day and saw AI imaging. And I said, oh, let me check this out. And I started diving into that. So my first book is entirely AI image generated. And from there, and I still continue to grow, obviously, but from there, I found a website that had freelance creative people. So I was able to find freelance illustrators for books 2 and 3, and also 4, which I finished, but I haven't published yet.
Oh, wow. That is interesting. What is the age range that you would say these books are targeted for?
I started thinking I would target around the kindergarten age. I've had some feedback from friends thinking that it might be a little bit higher level reading than that. So I'm guessing between kindergarten and 10 years old. I also have a cousin who has a toddler who has had to read the book probably 80 plus times because his son just loves it.
That's good. That's good for you then. That means it must be good.
Right. And good pictures.
Yes, exactly. Do you feel like kids nowadays maybe don't consider a career in trucking as much? I know, myself, kind of fairly new to the industry as far as trucking journalism, a couple of years. When you think of the trucking industry, a lot of people probably think, a truck driver. But there is just a vast array of the people that make this all happen. Do you think kids realize that and then maybe consider those jobs?
I don't know that it's widely known, which is part of my my motivation here. But gosh, there are so many. I mean, there's warehousing jobs for, loading and unloading trucks. There's driving jobs, obviously. There's dealership jobs like where I work, where it's just like a car dealer, only in much bigger scale, where, you have your parts department, your service department. You have your corporate headquarters where you have everyone from HR to accounting. So, in the industry, it's not just driving a truck, obviously. And there's just so many types of trucks, so, tankers and dump trucks, so aggregate, driving, delivery, which they call last mile delivering, locally right to people's doors. There's, big trucks, box trucks, refrigerated trucks, trailers. So yeah, it's huge.
Do you hope also, not that there just may spark an interest in a career in trucking, but also for kids to grow up with an understanding of, where their toys may come from, where their food comes from? Is that kind of the hope as well?
Absolutely. The not taking anything for granted, like how the COVID breakdown in the supply chain really affected people. And maybe some of these kids were too young to remember that, but knowing how vital it is to our society and how fast our society as we know it would break down without trucks. So they need to know that, these are very important things. They shouldn't be, there's a stereotype that has surrounded truck drivers. And I think we're starting to break through that. We have women drivers. We have drivers of all, makes and models, just like we do trucks. And I think that I like to encourage, and I've tried to change up the characters in my book, women, boys, girls, different races and ethnicities, so that they realize that all are welcome. I think that's huge.
And of course, if somebody wants to read your book, where can they go and do that?
On Amazon, you can look for the Blue Collar Kids book series, or you can look for them by name, and you have the ebook option, or the first 3 are available in a single paperback.
Nice. And you have a 4th coming, you said?
Yeah, I have a 4th one done, and this is about the parts department selling heavy-duty truck parts. And then number 5 and 6 are in the works. The number 5 is Thank a Trucker, and number 6 is about the cold chain, so the reefers on the road.
Neat. Do you hope to ever get these printed one day, or just kind of keep them digital?
So I do have the one paperback that has the first 3 books available in it. So Amazon has its limitations where you can't print until you have a certain number of pages. So I think that I'll be doing the paperbacks when I have 3 at a time. So when 4, 5, and 6 are ready, they'll be the next paperback as a series.
That was Kat Guerrero talking about her children's books about the trucking industry. For Landline Now, I'm Ashley Blackford. Stay tuned for more after this.
Penske owns and operates some of the best-maintained vehicles on the planet. Our used trucks come with a 5-year maintenance report and pre-sale inspection. So if you're in the market for a top-quality pre-owned truck, look no further. Search our inventory today at PenskeUsedTrucks.com.
Control your toll costs and eliminate tolling headaches with Prepass Tolls. Prepass Tolls means toll volume discounts. Just one invoice for all tolls and fewer violations. Call 877-878-5970 or go to Prepass.com.
Since you started, what you've loved about trucking is the freedom. Heading out on your favorite route, a good driving song, and thinking about truck insurance. Well, maybe not that last one. That's why we're here. At OOIDA, we have a full range of truck insurance products, expert advice, and great customer service, helping you get the right coverage for your operation. Go to OOIDA.com, because your job is to drive. Our job is to help with everything else.
Landline Now, welcome back. Every week, we check in with Marty Ellis, who drives OOIDA's tour truck, the Spirit of the American Trucker. Marty is in the great state of Illinois, making his way through a series of truck stops in the Midwest. But in the meanwhile, he's hearing some stories from truckers, including one about a fairly ridiculous situation involving turn signals, and he's discussed some real concerns about load securement, as well as inspecting both your load and your truck.
Carolina west to Denver, up to Bangor, west to Austin, coast to coast, sea to sea, sail on, sail on.
Well, Marty, how are you doing?
I am lovely, Mark, and you?
I'm doing very well, sir. Where are we finding you on this fine day?
I am at the Petro in Rochelle, Illinois. That's I-35, exit 99. They got 400 parking spots, an iron skillet, and a Hub City Express, and it has 15 showers and a doctor's office that does DOT physicals.
Neat. Okay, well, that's a pretty complete truck stop.
Absolutely.
Okay. And I guess you just came from one of the truck shows you're going to this year, and this sounded like a real fun one. Tell us about it.
Yeah, it was the Ohio Vintage Truck Reunion. It's in Ashland, Ohio. I know they had well over 200 trucks there, including anywhere from pickups all the way up to semis, of course, and all the ranges in the models as far as new trucks compared to, you know, the 1956 type of thing. And so it really had a little bit of something for everybody. It had a little race, what they call the crawl, and you try to go as slow as you can without stopping, and so whoever goes the slowest actually wins. So it's kind of a different deal, but it's fun. And they had a model truck contest, and they gave away prizes for that and allowed horn contest. And then on Saturday night, they had the movie Highball there played on the side of a trailer there out there, and everybody got their chairs out or sat on the picnic benches, and even had popcorn too, so you could enjoy that while you were watching the show.
Well, it sounds like it was a good time. I'm glad you went.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a little hot, but it's very family friendly, and I talked to everybody, and other than the heat, everybody was having a good time.
Well, great. Well, let's talk about some of the things that have been coming to your attention this week. And one of them involves a story I think I heard something about involving turn signals. Can you explain what's going on there?
Yeah. One of our members stopped in to visit, and that's part of the job out here, too, is to talk to our members and just kind of see what's happening out there in their part of the trucking industry. And I always enjoy some of the stories that I hear. And this gentleman came in and he said that he had picked up a trailer and the blinkers weren't working on the trailer. And he calls into his office and told the dispatcher that, he was having a problem and didn't have any turn signals on the trailer. And so they were going to have to get somebody out to get that repaired. And the dispatcher told him, no problem, you don't need blinkers, just use hand signals. So we got a pretty good chuckle about trying to figure out if anybody behind him could ever see his hand sticking out far enough and know what the heck he was trying to put out. So, but he was smart. He didn't go along with that. And that kind of, it just shows that the people in the office sometimes, number one, don't know what they're talking about. And number two, don't always have your best interest at heart.
Yeah, and I'm sure that if he had run into a DOT inspector, they wouldn't have been so thrilled with him using hand signals instead of having working blinkers.
Yeah, I might have probably given the dispatcher a hand signal of my own, but I won't go into which one.
And maybe that trucker did. We don't know. Well, that's
Exactly.
got to be the most ridiculous one you've brought up in a while.
Yep.
Oh, my gosh. Well, I know another topic that came up that hopefully is a little less ridiculous, but involved inspecting your truck and inspecting your loads. How did this come to your attention, Marty?
Yeah, that was another member that we were talking about, sometimes you'd pick up, with dropping hooks. And you never know what you're going to get. You don't know how the driver left it before. You don't know if any damage happened to it while it was on the customer's lot or actually in your own lot, your own yard there at your own place that you work with. And so I've heard horror stories and seen them myself, picking up trailers and there's a blown tire and you know that either the driver before knew about it and didn't want to do anything about it, or if he didn't know about it, he probably should have. And that's why, one of the things that you do when you do drop things off or even park for the night, you want to at least do a walk around and make sure everything's still okay. And I understand not having the time and that, but you have to let people know that there's a problem so people don't get there and think they can take off right away and there won't be any problems. One of the issues with some of the guys that I've talked to with the trying to inspect your load is if the load is already sealed, and some of the places you pick up at don't want to break that seal and let you look inside to verify that there is some sort of load securement in there. And understanding all this stuff goes right back to the driver. If you get pulled in for an inspection and the DOT officer finds something, yes, points will go against the company, but they will also go against you, which, fair or not, that's the way it's set up right now. And so you have to be very proactive in protecting your own license because the company you work with isn't necessarily doing that for you. And they're kind of looking out for themselves, but definitely not sometimes looking out for you.
I'm curious about something, Marty, and what your experience has been. But you mentioned when they've sealed the load, and most people I've talked to about that say once it's sealed, that's that, and you don't get into it. But can a DOT inspector basically require you to open that up?
Yeah, and I've had it happen, and I've questioned it. The first time I was ever asked, it was right after 9/11. So, kind of a different circumstance.
Oh, yeah.
Because they were, worried about loads. And I think that at that time, the officer said, look, I'm going to look in your trailer. I will break the seal. I will sign your paperwork that I broke the seal. I will write down the new number because I have a highway patrol seal, and I will reseal it, and I will document all that on your paperwork, so there won't be an issue when you get down to to the other end. But I still ended up sending a message in and calling my employer just to make sure everything was going to be okay.
Definitely something to watch out for. Well, we're running short on time, Marty. Where are you going next?
After the Petro, we'll be heading up to the Quick Star in South Beloit, Illinois, the 1st and 2nd of July. And then after that, the Quick Trip in Belmont, Wisconsin. That's the Quick Trip with a K, and that's Highway 151, exit 26 there. And that'll be the 4th and the 5th of July.
Yeah, and I think you're going to hit quite a few of those quick trips, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of the truck drivers like them. They were voted one of the best truck stops out there now. They're not super large, but they are building bigger stops to have more parking.
Excellent. Well, Marty, any final words before you ride off into the sunset?
Hey, guys, just remember, be kind to one another and give that guy next to you a break.
Brothers of the highway, children of the wind.
Once again, that was Marty Ellis, who drives OOIDA's tour truck, The Spirit of the American Trucker. You can find Marty's next stop on our show and every day at our website, landlinenow.com. That's our program for today. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow with more. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
Capital Reman is your leading source for quality remanufactured engines and components. Capital Reman stands ready to serve all OOIDA members to help reduce costly engine repairs or replacement. Visit capitalreman.com today and use code OOIDA10 to save.
Get the most power performance out of your rig with Howe's Diesel Defender. It provides maximum lubricity and contains specialized IDX4 detergent to clean and prevent deposits and safely removes harmful water. Visit HowesProducts.com for more information.
I'm a dad,
a son,
a husband,
wife,
I'm a writer,
photographer.
I farm.
I'm a veteran.
I love old cars, fishing,
my kids,
chrome,
and I am
a professional truck driver.
And together we are OOIDA.
OOIDA was founded by truckers to stand up and speak on behalf of truckers. We've done that by combining the individual voices of our members into a single, powerful voice. Protecting your interests, defending your rights.
Join us!
Make your voice heard. Join OOIDA, the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association. Call 1-800-444-5791 or visit OOIDA.com.